Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Global Phenomenon. And today I am here with supermodel Emme. Emme, it's so nice to see you today.
So wonderful to join you on the global phenomenon, Ina. So great.
Oh, this is going to be an amazing conversation because you have a career that, as I was looking at it, I'm like, there is so much to unpack and to learn from here because I really feel like there's so many people who want to make it out there, who want to put themselves out there as big shining stars in the world. And there is always something holding them back. And your career is studded with all of these lessons that I want to just start diving in. But first, why don't you tell us a little bit of who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm known in the world as the world's first curvy supermodel. And I started my career in modeling back in the 1990s before the internet. Yes, indeed. So I have a lot of frequent flyer miles, a million miler on a couple. So it was really, really wonderful to be able to get out into the world and share my story, hear what other women and men were talking about, and how we aligned so much on feeling our body image and self-esteem was somewhat askew, and that we were all searching to feel better, to thrive in our lives. And I got a chance to write a few books. I've had clothing lines. I have been a Renaissance woman in a different categories and different industries, had great successes, had really wonderful failures, and I'm alive to talk about it. So today I'm a life coach, which really is fitting, and I'm loving every single day. Every single client has been just, it reflects back to me of how far I've come and how far everyone can go if they just take a chance on themselves.
And that is one thing that I really noticed about your career is how varied it was. And so I want to start, first of all, I found this article from the New York Times, 1997, and I learned so
Alex Twitchell.
yeah, I learned so much about you. I'm gonna put the link to the article in the description because I learned so much about you in just this one article. Like you had a billboard on Times Square for Liz Claiborne, and so I mean that all sounds so amazing. But
That was the first
that
ever
was
of anyone curvy. It was kind of crazy. Yeah.
I want to know what that felt like.
Well, uh, wow. I actually stood there the first time, the first day, like the first hour that was put up. And I kept on thinking, is this really happening? And my family threw a private party and the Marriott, and then the Marriott overlooked right where the billboard was.
Yeah.
So I got my hair done, and everybody was so excited. Some of the press came, and they asked me the same question. I said, it's time for more of a diversified reflection of beauty. I would like to see more race reflection. I would like to see more age reflection, but I'll take this. If this is size reflection, I'll take this and run. And it felt like it was the beginning of a really interesting journey. I was really honored and excited, and I was happy to be the first.
Yeah.
I was really
Can I ask you what was happening in your life? You just said your family threw a party right by right on the Marriott so that they can see the billboard. What was going on inside? What were you feeling about this huge milestone?
So at this point in time, I was signed with Revlon, or I was just about to get signed to Revlon. I think it was just prior to me being signed with Revlon. I was a host of a TV show called E's Fashion Emergency, and that was the first reality show. And it was scripted, kind of, but it was at the very, very beginning of all this. So I was on TV. I was working in TV more than modeling.
Mhm.
And with Liz Claiborne, it was I was so surprised that they were going to put a billboard up, but all of the research was really coming in that there were millions and millions of women that were not, about 100 million women above a size 12 that were not seeing their reflections. And that made a big, big, wake up call to the industry saying, what's our bottom line and why aren't we making more money? And when they figured out that they were not making the kind of clothes to suit women that were above a size 12, they said, oh, it's time to reflect. It's time to celebrate. And I was a leader in the industry at that time with I had my own publicist, so I was communicating all the time. There were no social outlets.
Mhm.
So I was pretty much in every newspaper, pretty much every Sunday, answering questions, being a columnist, going on TV shows, and doing satellite media tours where you would start at 4 a.m. in a studio in Manhattan, and you'd say, "Good morning, Philadelphia. Good morning, all the different states in between. Hi, Arizona. Hi there, Utah. Hi, California." And you're like, huh, at the end of it. So people saw me and heard my voice, and I communicated as well as read about my story and the other people that I was bringing into the story.
Mhm.
Um, and it was a beautiful time of awakening, I think.
Can I ask you one more thing? Because you just mentioned the East Fashion Emergency. And when I told my sisters that you and I were working together, they immediately said, wait a minute, she's from Fashion Emergency. And so, what is it? I want you to explain to everyone who's listening who wants to achieve this kind of notoriety and success. What does it feel like to be recognized like that? To be walking down the street, like for people who know who you are?
So many years have passed since I was the host of this show, and I've been a host of other shows, but nothing like Fashion Emergency gave me that recognition. So if I go to Italy and I'm walking in a train to Venice from Milan and I'm looking for a seat and look down and say, "Excuse me, my daughter and I have a seat here," and this woman almost has a heart attack and goes, "You're Emme." And my daughter goes, "Mom, how does she know that that's you?" So having that type of thing happen over and over and over again throughout the years, even to this day, someone will say, "Were you at the barbecue, or were you at the funeral?" So it's very familiar. It's not like I'm very relatable, I think. So
Yeah.
I go, "No, I was that host of the TV show." And that's when you have to brace yourself, because then screams and yells, and
Yeah.
it's fun. It's really fun. It's great that you get a chance to go into people's hearts and homes, and knock on wood, it hasn't been intrusive. It hasn't been bad. There's some odd things that do happen. People will slide up during dessert and so I have this issue, I have this problem, and you go, it's really nice to say hi, and I'd love to have a moment with you after, but I'm here with dinner with my girlfriends, or I'm with my date, which has happened. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there's an odd thing that happens when you're recognized, but it's better. It's much better on 90% of it. So I enjoy that.
So I always wait for interviewers to ask this question because I really want to know if somebody sees you and notices you on the street at a restaurant, what is your preferred way for them to approach you or say hi? Like, what is the right way to do this in a way that is not intrusive?
There's no real right way. I just think if someone is going to be going out into public and going and having a dinner, there's nothing wrong with saying hi and just respecting privacy. If you start throwing down a napkin or a piece of paper for someone to sign while they're having a dinner, I don't know. I just don't think that's respectful. So just to say hello or keep it till later or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
be
all,
respectful. Like, that's a message. Be
yeah,
respectful out
just
there.
be respectful. That's okay. It's always nice to say hi,
Yeah.
but don't get too comfortable where you sit down for dessert.
Right. Right. So not only was that the very first plus size billboard on Times Square, you also had, which I love this so much, the very first plus size ad for Revlon, for a major makeup company, and it aired during the Oscars. Do you remember where you were the first time that you saw your Revlon commercial?
So I had a little sneak peek prior to the Oscars and the Academy Awards. I remember thinking, "Oh my gosh, the whole world is going to be seeing this ad," and it was so much fun. I had the greatest time shooting it, the best crew, very professional. And it always, whenever I got to work with really wonderful crews that have been around the block, that have done everyone, have worked with everyone, it always raised my bar. So I was so appreciative to be able to work with really fine folks. So I knew whatever product was going to be reflected is going to be really wonderful.
Yeah.
I was with a group of friends, I remember, and I think it like when it went on, I was like, I braced myself and I said, okay, take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath. It's an odd thing to think that people are seeing your work, especially if everybody that saw it definitely could see that I was not a size zero, that I was, a real regular sized woman. And the response was really, really good. I had such fun time. I loved working with Halle Berry and Cindy Crawford and Duff. Remember Karen Duffy from MTV?
I
So
do,
we all were
yeah.
together at that time. It was just really good women, and we had fun.
Yeah. And I'm going to quote this in the New York Times article because you said something that I had to take and write down, which I loved. You said, and tell me if you remember saying this, I don't promote obesity and I don't promote anorexia. We should all have more compassion for our differences. We don't have to be all the same to be accepted. Do you remember saying that?
Oh, I do. I do. It's one of my tenets, and I appreciate you reflecting that back out. Did you also see that I said a cookie is just a cookie? Get over
Yes.
it. It was a
I
quote of
I
the day.
love I love it that you said, like, you know what, killing your husband, that's a bad thing, but having a cookie should not be compared to something as horrible as that. Give yourself a break. I loved
They
reading that.
pulled that out and put it. You know how the New York Times has a quote of the day?
Right.
They said that they pulled that quote, and I actually have to frame that. I have to find that newspaper
I
because
love that.
it's so true. When
Yeah.
you really dig down and when you think about what value we put unnecessarily on the weight on the scale, and that doesn't mean that if you are really unwell, whether it's in below weight and above weight, obviously, but there's all this value of being a good person or a bad person, and if you're worthy or unworthy, and it's really damaging
Yeah.
to everyone, men and women and boys and girls and sons and daughters, aunts and nieces and nephews, to grow up in this world that is percolating with judgment.
Yeah.
And boy, it's certainly hard to be able to get connected to that beautiful vehicle that's our body, align it with our soul, that's our purpose, and has all the wonderful things that we want to do, all the motivations. And when it's disjointed, that's when it's hard to have a good foundation. When you are aligned and you have that stern, really strong foundation where you're like, you've got my back, I'm going to get yours. And you grow together, right? Not that, but grow together. You can't, nothing can really get in your way. When you have a firm foundation with, if someone's going to be a bully to you when you're younger, it's hard. When you're growing up, this is when you learn all these things. But as a mom of a daughter that did get bullied, I was like, listen, bullies want to get rid of all that stuff that's inside of them that doesn't feel good, it doesn't rest easy, and they see that you've got it all together, supposedly, and they just want to make you feel bad. It's almost like you need to take off the raincoat. Just take off that raincoat, forgive them, draw your boundary, and move on. But try not to let that absorb through your skin into your soul. It's very hard, but it's practice, practice, practice.
For a while then, modeling was kind of your side hustle. What was really paying the bills is you're selling real estate, you're being a marketing director for a real estate firm.
Yes,
right?
yes.
You were a massage therapist at some point.
Yes, when I got disillusioned with modeling, I booked out of there. I totally got out of there and said, there is no way I want to be a model anymore. So I went and got into holistic healing because I'd always done hands-on stuff. And yeah, so I did that as well.
I want to know, because the people who are listening right now, they want to make it big with that thing that they love doing, right? They want to start their businesses and they really want to step out there. In the meantime, there's something that is paying the bills. And some of them almost feel like a fraud because they're not doing what they love to do full time because they have to keep their job. Because I would love to know what it was like for you to work your real jobs while you were working on the modeling.
It's a hustle, girl. It is a hustle. And you keep your eye on the prize and you keep the pots boiling. And I was, after a while, when I started getting bookings an hour here, hour there in the city, and I would never wear red lipstick and have makeup on my face at my job. I was wearing a suit and I was meeting clients. And I was actually doing quite well with getting the place 80% full when it was completely empty. And so my boss was really happy, giving me promotions and bonuses. Then I finally had to go in his office and I said, listen, I've got to tell you something. He goes, I knew something was going on with you. I go, I really, really, I am at my wit's end because I'm starting to get longer bookings and I can't be away from the office. He goes, do me a favor. When it's really unbearable, come back, go do what you need to do, come back after your work and do the job that you have. So he was so flexible that I was very, very lucky. I think there was another job in there that I was doing too. At one point I was doing 3 jobs. And then at a dinner, our accountant sat down and said, I'm going to tell you something. You're doing way too much. And if you really want to do a good job in anything, you have to let go of that other job at the marketing director and you've got to focus on the modeling, because if that's going to be paying you more money and you enjoy traveling, you're doing all this, it needs your focus. And it was hard because I was so used to just grinding it out and doing, and I was almost like free falling that, well, wait a minute, I'm leaving this to, and I had a big surprise, farewell party. And I was told anytime I wanted to come back, I could. But that was actually the beginning of my taking on European bookings and being gone for 2 to 3 weeks and then going all over to England, to wherever, Australia. And it's almost energetically like if you have your energy all dispersed, if you zero in and you focus, at a certain point, it makes a big difference as to what's going to be coming back at you.
But what was that like? Did you actually quit your job or they kind of quit you for you? They just said,
I had to
we're going to
quit.
do one. What was
I had
that
to quit.
like? What was that like?
Well, it felt like I was free falling. It felt like I had to have faith in the fact that the modeling, although I never wanted to do it before, turned out to be an interesting vehicle to reflect a different type of body type that was not being reflected, whether it was catalogs and magazines. Mode magazine was the only fashion magazine that was out there, and all the different editors and people that came together for Mode magazine came from all of the different fashion magazines. So it was wonderful. Their level of expertise and reflection was wonderful. So I thought, okay, more people are getting into the game. There's still a struggle with editorials being done and Vogue hiring. But today that's very different. Back then it was just people would look at you when I would go for E, and I was a reporter for E, I'd go to the fashion shows and people would look at me up and down with their nose. And thank God I was an athlete, because I just was like, what are you doing? Why are you looking at me like that? Get down and do 20. So, I had a really horrible situation when this is a pivotal moment in my career when I actually left to go and get massage therapy. And this is before the 94 People magazine. A photographer actually said to my face, I'm not shooting this fatty, and turned away and walked out the door, slammed the door. And I said, okay, that's it. I'm a grown woman. I don't think that anybody should be ever talking to anybody like that. And why would I want to put myself through all of this? And many years later, or 3-4 years later, I was working down in Miami, and there he was, cleaned up. He was looking gross and disgusting when he said all that stuff. And he goes, Emme, we've got to work together. And this is a short version of the story. And I remember thinking, he has no idea that he shot me, or he tried to shoot me. And I just realized right then that bullies, when they're nervous or scared or frightened about their own realm or their own world, they will attack another person that looks different or odd or outside of the norm of what they're used to. And if I gave up on that day when he said, I'm not going to shoot that fatty, I would have never have had this beautiful career that just reflects a most needed inclusive nature in who we are. And today we see beautiful women of an array of colors, an array of shapes and sizes and ages, um, within the fashion, beauty, and modeling industry.
And I'm going to have to go back to a time when all of this didn't come so natural to you,
Mm,
when it wasn't so easy to think, yes, we are all the same and we're all beautiful in our own way, because we all deal with our own demons. We all deal with traumas from
yeah.
childhood. We all deal with all that stuff. And I would love to know, what was your journey, if you have any stories that you'd like to share with us, of what was your journey of all these insecurities that we have growing up and stepping into a very successful modeling career,
Mhm.
being plus size. Can you please tell us how you got there?
So when I was very, very young, my the first cross that I saw was the scale at a Weight Watchers meeting for my mom back in New York City. And I don't, I remember women either crying or laughing or being gleeful, filled with glee, if they lost or gained weight. And it turned me. I just didn't really appreciate that at all. So my mom had such value on the shape and size of her body because she was lived in during the time of Twiggy,
Hmm.
and that reflection was very big. And she was a 5'10". She was definitely not size zero, but I think she always had that drive for thinness. So when she and my father divorced, I was very, very young. She married my stepfather, who also had his own issues with his own body, with the value system of, and there was a lot of shame and guilt that he grew up with, and that combination between the two of them, um, it was it was really an interesting garden to grow up in, where if I wasn't going to be an advocate for women's self-esteem and body image, it was either going to be I was going to be completely a derelict in society, and it was left for the grace of God, or really good people being in my life that just kind of things that I read, quotes, philosophy. I was really into that. Anything I could grab onto that was hopeful and up. So the incident that took place was shortly after my stepfather had gone to several eating diet centers, and he was obese, and he was an ominous big 6'6". He was an ominous figure. Um, Granted, he really did love us and his family, but he had such a horrible upbringing that I learned after he passed away, and it made all the sense in the world. That's where I could actually forgive him. But one afternoon, my stepfather and I were alone in the house, and I was very active. I was very athletic. I was getting blue ribbons and red ribbons, and I did a lot outside. I lived in Saudi Arabia.
Hmm.
And he said, Melissa, my given name is Melissa, come into the room, strip down in your underwear, and I want to show you where your potential fat areas are on your body. And here I am, 12, 13, and I'm thinking, okay, I mean, it's not like you have a complete thought. You go, this doesn't feel right, or I don't feel right. I don't feel right. And then he took a black pen and drew around my thighs and drew around the back of my arm. And he was about to draw in my stomach. And I screamed, no, stop, no, like really loud. And I ran into, and he said, before he did this, he said, this is between you and I. Don't tell your mother about this. So there was all this shame and weirdness. There was a bunch of things that was all about that. And I went into the bathroom and I took a washcloth and I scrubbed as hard as I could to get these marks away. And I said, I'm going to the pool. It was during most throughout the entire year, you could go to the pool there. I'm going to the pool. My friends are there. And I jumped on my bike and I drove off. And so I jump in the water and I'm having the best time. Forgot about what was going on. Hours I was there. But when I got out of the pool, I put my arms on the side of the pool and my butt was facing the pool. And my guy friends were all together. They saw the marks on my thighs that I was trying to erase. Some of the black was still there, the red from the rubbing. And they pointed and started laughing, not knowing what was going on. And I don't really remember what happened after that, other than me running into the bathroom and crying. But I don't remember going home, and I don't remember a lot after that. It was just a strange time. So when I was an athlete in college, I was, once again, my body was so my friend, and I didn't see it that way. It took me and helped me leap and win and swim and get scholarships to college. And I just kept on beating on it and saying, you're not good enough, you're not bad enough. And that's probably what helped me excel, be a successful athlete. But it wasn't until many years later, when I was in a hotel room making great money overseas, and I think I was in Germany, and I said, why am I beating myself up when I'm not doing enough? There's something seriously wrong here. And I went to what is now called the National Eating Disorders Association. At that time, many years ago, it was called something else. It's had many different lifetimes. And I went to different therapists, and they go, you look healthy. You don't look like you have an eating disorder. You don't have a body image disorder. You look good. I'm like, it's not about that. They had it wasn't yet really, really discussed 30 years ago. So when NEDA, or it was called something else back then, I started reading about what it was to have disordered eating and what anorexia was, what exercise bulimia was, what obesity was, all these terminologies. And I was like a little bit smatterings of everything. And I thought, oh, wow, so I am not alone. And there is something here about that. And so I signed up and I said, I want to be one of your ambassadors. The more that I can learn from you, the more I'm going to grow. And when I started really understanding what I was seeing, how I grew up, what I was feeling, and the combination of that and more, when it became aware that I was unique, we are all unique, but we're so alike. And that really got me to thinking about, the work of every single book I have has everything to do with how we relate to the body. My work right now as a life coach is really seeped deeply with body image. And the podcast that I'm launching is called The Magnificent Body. And it's going to be fun to hear from women and men about how we feel about our bodies and what they do for us.
I think you just said something that is really, really important for everyone to hear. And that is that even through our childhood traumas, there is hope there. You ended up really searching deep to see, okay, what is the issue? Why am I feeling this way? Why do I keep giving myself a hard time? I would love to know what you have to say to women and men out there who are struggling, not just with their weight, but just with mindset, with things that may have happened earlier in life that are having long-term repercussions now in adulthood. They're here thinking they want to really put themselves out there and start their businesses, but there's something in the back of their mind that keeps stopping them. I wonder what advice you would have for them to really break out of those patterns.
It's a wonderful question, Ina, and it is just a mindset. So if we could think of multiple realities happening at the same time, that's our life. Our lifetime as a child, our lifetime as a teenager, a lifetime as a mid-adult, and so on and so on and so on. And it's really, our age is just one of those notches. But a lot of us can take, a reflection and say, oh, I'm still living with the emotional capacity as an adolescent or a child because of this happening. So number one, if you need to get therapy to go back and kind of address this as an adult, seeing that you are the adult now, you're no longer the child reflecting and reacting as a 5, 8, 10, 13, 12-year-old, that's healing. And it's with the care of someone taking you by the hand and professionally trained to do that. Also, shifting a perspective where if you're thinking that you're afraid of judgment because you have a new idea and you want to go out and you want to share this with everyone, but you're like, but the kids used to laugh at me. Shift that perspective one little notch over here and realize, well, today's a new day. And this is going to be an idea that's going to serve. And I'm no longer there. I'm here. And for those people that are really looking for this good or goods or services, they're going to be attracted to it. Everyone else that isn't going to be really ready for this, they're not going to be coming towards it. Do you really want to be someone for all people? You would not have a life. You wouldn't have a life. So you want to be very specific with what it is that you put out there, and the fears, and having hope. Oh my goodness, there's somebody that I'm working with right now that just said that, they don't have a real good grasp on what the word hope and faith mean in their life. And I said, let's take religious references out of this. It is truly just looking forward and thinking, I am worthy of having my dreams come true. And these are the steps backwards from that goal in order to get it. And then be flexible like a bamboo tree to try something a little bit over here and over there, because the path to success is never, ever a straight line, ever. And I think having systems in place so that you can have these steps, and if something tries to derail you, well, then I have plan B. And then if you're really in a rough situation, get to your plan C. Make sure that you have a couple of plans that will get you back on track, and be patient. That's the whole deal. And the last and most important thing is, when an opportunity knocks on your door and let's just say someone asks you to be a CEO. Now, this could be for anything, but hear me out. If someone knocks on your door and says, for the very first time in your life, I'd really like you to be the CEO of X, Y, and Z company. We think that you'd be fabulous. We like this, this, this about you. When can you start? I want you to gather all the guts that you have if you've never been a CEO before, and I want you to say yes and negotiate a great salary and just step into that role for the first day. Because every CEO, whether they've been working up in a company and getting prepared, everyone is a CEO for that first day. And if people are looking at you and giving you that opportunity to be that CEO, more times than not, people have never, ever considered themselves to be a CEO. Given the opportunity to be a CEO, will turn it down. Do not turn the opportunities come to you. It's being given to you for a reason. And you will learn so much from it, whether it's being a CEO, whether it's being, taking, for someone saying, oh, you're perfect. Why don't you just start modeling? I mean, my life would have been so different if I hadn't just said, why not? I've never done it before. I didn't like it very much before, but why not? It's a great one. You should just get a sign and say, why not? And put it everywhere.
And actually, I can relate to this a lot. I worked in corporate for 15 years, and I'm going to tell you the word mindset never entered my vocabulary. It was all about strategy. It was all about knowing your numbers. It was all about, can you give a presentation? It's all about tactics. And it wasn't until I got out of corporate that I started to really get into this world of what's going on in your mind. This actually matters. It's preventing you from reaching the higher levels. It's preventing you from thinking of yourself as that next step, as that next team leader, as that next director, as that next CEO. And I would love to hear from you. If we have somebody who is listening, who's basically saying, yeah, well, I am very smart, I'm very resourceful, I know exactly what to do, mindset is not really a thing for me, I would love to speak to that person and to tell them and to raise their self-awareness a little bit. What would you say to that person if you had them in front of you?
I would say I really can't wait to delve in and show you your backstage pass to why that is not true. Mm-hmm. Everybody has various mindsets that either propel them forward or keep them back. And it's to your advantage to be aware of the different mindsets that we have at different given situations. Whether there's a lot of mindsets that we have when we are about to go to a cocktail party, that anxiety that you feel, and a lot of people will cancel because they have social anxiety. So to be able to give you a mindset of freedom, of grace, of goddessness, of a gentleman, just walking in and being open to anything and everything that can happen, a beautiful conversation, getting to know somebody, getting to be outside of the house when, we're sometimes so fearful that we don't want to walk beyond our own door, our front door, because it's safer here. We're losing if we do that. This is life. meant to be lived, meant to be experienced. So just shifting a mindset or replacing a mindset with another one can make the difference from having a really sour, difficult day to one that is filled with possibility, one that is absolutely open and free. So I chat, there might be a fear to say, I don't believe in different mindsets, and I just want to, keep it. If you're trying to keep it safe, you're going to have this type of a life, this kind of a little life. And that's fine if that's exactly what you want to do. But if you have goals and dreams, admit that you don't know everything, admit that you are ready to learn, and be open to what's going to come, because that's the beauty of life.
Yeah. And I love it that you said that. One of the biggest impacts in my career post corporate has been having the right mentor, has been having somebody who is putting up a mirror to me and saying, these are the things that I'm seeing that you're reflecting out. Where does that come from? What are we going to do about that? How are you going to act next time that this shows up? And I'm dealing with that even today in personal relationships, that things that come up, these things have a way of popping up in my business as well. So it's so important to get that kind of help. And I have loved hearing all about your story. And one thing that keeps popping to mind for me is that you have managed to evolve and never quit. You've always had your vision on the next thing and just continuing to push forward. What do you have to say to everybody who's watching your life, watching how it's all unveiled, and somebody who may be saying, well, that sounds like it was really easy for her because she was just in the right place at the right time? I would love to know, I would love to give those people a little sense of reality of how life will throw you hard things and you have to roll with the punches. How would
Yeah.
you illustrate that in the path that you've painted for us?
Sure. I'm going to bring something up that happened this year. I wish everyone good health during this pandemic. And I know that everyone was affected with job losses, with adjustments, and my family also. I had a very beautiful fall session with lots of travel and lectures and my livelihood, a few jobs here and there with modeling, but the modeling was really, I was phasing that out, doing more runway and enjoying that.
Mhm.
But coming into the pandemic year, every single lecture that I had that was in person, it was always in person, whether it was on a college campus, whether it was for an educational system, a healthcare system, whatever it was completely canceled and scheduled for next year or not. And so I sat back and I thought, I need to provide an income for my family. No one is getting together for shoots. So what is it that I love? And I've always wanted to get into life coaching. I've been coaching. I've been a mentor, and I've been coaching for years and years now, but not professionally and not certified and accredited. And I looked into it and I thought, okay, this is where I want to go. Um, it's a passion of mine, so I'm going to get paid in order to coach people to their dreams. I'm not going to be coaching people to go to their dreams to get paid. It's
Mhm.
very, very different mindset. So, so that just right now happened, and I'm in it. I'm about to launch my website. I'm about to get into the podcast, and it's another unknown. But sitting back and being fearful and letting that eat at you and saying, oh, I don't know what to do, I don't know. I am very, very lucky that I have my classmates. We are switching back and forth with coaching. So I say, if you're in a place of transition, or if you're wondering what matters and who you are, a life coach is a really wonderful investment,
Mhm.
because boom, we go there. We go deep, we go fast, and we're there to listen to what you're supposed to, what you want to reveal, and everything's confidential. So when I have my turn with my own classmates to delve in, I didn't realize that I was going to be getting so much with just going to school. It's mind blowing. So it's helped me stay on my track to be accountable. So accountability also, if you can find an accountability partner where you say, this week, this big goal for 3 months or 6 months. Let's take steps back. This is what I want to get done this week. And you check in with your accountability, say that again, accountability partner, and let them you be accountable to them for theirs. So find someone who's on the similar track, put it out there in your friend group, and having someone be your accountability partner helps you succeed 400%. Truly. If you don't have someone, oh, I want to sleep in. Oh, that idea was stupid. Oh, I don't really want to do it. But I can't tell you how happy I am that I've made this shift and to keep forward moving.
Yeah, and I have been there. I've actually had accountability partners who are friends. I have paid mentors and coaches, and I'm going to tell you, paying a mentor or a coach has been the most effective way, because you're really following somebody like you, somebody who has been there, who has walked the walk and talked the talk, and who can tell you exactly these can be your next steps. This is how you create that vision for yourself. So having somebody who is that experienced tell you what your life could look like is incredible. It's unparalleled to any other accountability you can get. And I've loved having this conversation with you. I have two more questions before we wrap.
Sure. Okay.
Question is, what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about incredibly successful women like yourself?
I think that there's a couple of things that it comes easy. Possibly, but for some women, I think other women will look and think that there's a limited amount in the pot, so that when one woman succeeds, that there's less for her. That is definitely a misconception. I want to just say this right here and right now with you and your global phenomenon followers, global phenomenon trotters. That everyone is born with incredible success, all built in. It's really about our perceptions, about our mindset, but we have that capacity. So when somebody else is doing really well, it's really important that we applaud and we are happy for them and not think ill of them, because we too have that ability and that capacity to have that wonderful success, however we see it, if we apply ourselves. Number two, it is a lot of hard work. It's a lot of doing exchange for work and bartering, and there's a lot of work where you don't get paid sometimes, where you just are grinding it out, and you just have to also take a break. And when you're pulling yourself up, when you're working like this, you've got to remember to bring other people underneath you up. Yeah. It's not just this way. It doesn't work just pulling yourself up. There's a circular effect by sharing the wealth of knowledge that you have with other people, and be really grateful. Let the people know that have helped you that you are grateful for their work. Very important.
I love it, especially because you touched on one of our principles in the global phenomenon is we believe in propping others up, not just looking for opportunities for us, is helping everybody around us too. Okay. And our final question is, this is about a call to action. I'm giving you the power that anybody who hears your voice over the next 24 hours have to do what you're about to tell them to do. So this is somebody who wants to improve their life, somebody who wants to reach incredible levels of success. What is that one thing that they need to do in the next 24 hours to make that happen?
Okay, this is what I want you to do in the next 24 hours. I want you to have a piece of paper next to you, and I want you to have a conversation with your body, probably, most likely, for the first time. Talking to your body like it's your best friend. Thanking your body for everything that you can list that it does for you automatically every single hour, second, day, year, decade after decade. And with that, I want you to go to your stove, and I want you to say, from here on out, we're going to align as the mentor back and forth, best friends with one another, so that no matter what happens, no matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody might insinuate by the way you look, by the way they look at you when you're about to walk into a C-suite for that big meeting, you're about to land it, that no matter what, you know who you are, the whole of you. Whether it's at home in an argument or at home when you're in bed or when you're with friends out or with on your own, that you know who you are. Because with that, you can go and achieve those things that you want in a wholesome, well-rounded way. And when you're in front of that stove, I want you to burn that paper of all those lists of things and say, I am here for you. No longer is the body bashing. No longer am I going to beat you up. No longer am I going to devalue you. No one's going to say anything poorly about you. I am there for you.
I love that so much. I feel like especially today, I needed to hear that. Thank you so much, Emme. It's been such a pleasure to walk through your story. And how can everyone find you?
Okay, so you can go on to emmewellness.com, and the global phenomenon, I'm going to be a part of this wonderful, I'm going to be on here with you, which is great. And you can check me out on Supermodel Emme. And you can check me out on Instagram as well as on Facebook and on Emme Wellness over at Facebook.
I love it. Thank you so much, Emme. It was so nice to talk to you today.
Thank you, Ina. A pleasure, a pleasure.